Hi, I'm Dana. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm back for another reading of my new book, 7 Years to Surrender, My Journey to Faith. It's been out for a little over a month now. I released it last month, November 2025. And a few weeks after I launched it, I felt like I needed to put my voice to my words. So I've been coming on reading it chapter by chapter. I've read the first 2 chapters already. I'll link those videos in the description. And I read chapter 3 yesterday. And after I thought about it, I was thinking I could do better. I needed to re-record that video and explain that chapter better. So this is my second try at recording this video. I'm realizing that even in writing the book, it was a form of healing the trauma, healing my past traumas, and releasing those traumas. And now that I've started to read my book and give the backstory, there's even more things that I'm realizing as I try and explain my mindset and where I was years ago, and having to put context around these events that happened years ago. So this is my second, maybe third attempt to read this chapter and discuss it. This is chapter 3, Formative Years. So let's start. Life lessons are taught through experience, right? How else do you teach life? You live it. I was raised in a Christian household. Church was a big deal. My parents were strict, though we didn't realize it at the time. To us, that was normal. I spent my childhood running with my brothers and cousins, making memories without realizing that rules were even being enforced. My mom would occasionally tell me, be careful, and I took that to mean stay alert, be on guard. But still I played, I laughed, I trusted. Somewhere deep inside, I must have known I was safe. I was covered. My parents were covering me. Whatever I did, wherever I went, they had me. And then the period thing happened, and a piece of that covering broke. I was a shy kid. I didn't get in much trouble at home or school. I made mostly A's throughout elementary and junior high. I enjoyed playing with my brothers, but I also loved playing with dolls. I basked in my naivety. When I became a teenager, all of my cousins were getting saved, so I wanted to get saved too. Even though I hadn't conceptualized what being saved meant, I started what I thought was a journey of getting to know God. Now I understand that I wasn't really getting to know Him. I was just afraid of missing heaven. We weren't taught about faith. We weren't taught how to build a relationship with God. We feared Him so we wouldn't sin. But even that fear couldn't keep us from sinning, because fear doesn't keep you from falling. And no one showed us how to live this Christian life in the real world. Who was walking beside us? Who was showing us how to navigate our thoughts, our urges, our questions? Sure, we knew about God, but if you don't have a relationship with Him, how do you follow Him? When I was little, my family was everything. I came from a big, beautiful, extended family. We had a family church that my grandfather pastored, and despite the fear-based messages I picked up from church, I actually loved being there. I got to see my cousins, my friends, and everyone I loved. We had fun. Church was lively, warm, and familiar. So that's chapter 3, a short chapter. But as I was trying to explain this chapter in my previous videos, I realized that I was still not explaining it to the extent that I could. Taking a look back at how I was as a child, and a lot of things are even coming to me now as I read my book. Things are coming to me, and even more healing is taking place, and even more mind's transformation is taking place, and even more revelation is taking place. And that's really the blessing of this book, that I knew I had to be obedient to write it and put it out, and that it was part of my healing. When I talk about how I was saved, some of our ideas around being saved are religious. To have a relationship with God, it's more of a spiritual aspect for me. When I was a kid, and this is from my own perspective, of course, I say that we weren't taught how to be saved because based off of my conversations with Tim, and it's obvious that we were both missing that piece of understanding what it means to actually cultivate a relationship with God. And for me to now be in my 50s and to now better understand what it means to be set apart. To look like our Father. When we were kids, even at 12 years old, even as a teenager, we were just told things that we couldn't do, but it wasn't really explained. We knew we couldn't cuss, we couldn't smoke and drink, but we weren't doing that anyway. And a lot of things that we were told we couldn't do, it wasn't because it was a sin to do it. And we realize that now. But our parents and our grandparents, they taught us from a standpoint of where they came from. Even with Tim and I, even though we were raised in the same Christian organization, there were a lot of things that his church couldn't do, but our church could do. So it was like, so was it sin or not? We weren't really taught, this is how you live as a child, or this is how you live as a young adult, and what it all really means in building a relationship with God. So in this chapter, as I was rereading it, it came to me that even now with our church now, their ideas about being saved are even different than ours. And we realize that even a lot of people that go to church now, it's not even like they're trying to be saved. The best way I can explain what it means to me to be spiritual and to have a relationship with God, it's like the things that I would have done before, I no longer have an appetite for. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong, but it's just, it irritates my soul, or my soul won't even allow me to do it. We all have different belief systems, and belief systems are taught through life experiences. And when I was thinking about this chapter and being that they were my formative years, I was, in my teens, my preteens, my main focus was being a child, was playing with my friends and my cousins, and what I'm going to wear to school the next day, or whatever assignment that I have to complete at school. So it was different things that I was concerned about, but I wasn't like reading my Bible. I wasn't praying. I didn't know how to ask God for anything really, because that part of the relationship with God is the part that is individual. When I say life lessons are taught, as a child, you have a different aspect of life lessons. You're not thinking about life lessons or life experiences. You're just living life. I think the more life experiences you have, the more things that you learn, you're able to conceptualize them. You're able to understand. But back when I was a child, I didn't have those experiences. I didn't even have the words. Like I said, when I got my period in the 5th grade, the words that I got my period, I need to go home, they weren't even in my mind. I guess depending on your family, like our family, we didn't do a lot of talking. You don't understand life. You don't understand what it means to be an adult. It's like, how can you understand something that you're being told not to do and you can't do it? You've just been told that it's a sin and you could go to hell, but you don't understand what sin is. I really had to get to know God on a more spiritual level. My spiritual relationship with God really started to grow, I believe, when I got sick with cancer 10 years ago. I think I really started evaluating what my relationship with God was about. And I started to cultivate that relationship for myself. And of course, I had already gone through a lot of life lessons. My family wasn't a very talkative family. We were a close family, but we weren't really having mature conversations because we were still kids. When I say I was a shy kid, I knew I was quiet, and I would hear that throughout my childhood about being shy, but I didn't understand what that meant as a child. As I got older, I think back even now, like, how was I taught to be a shy kid? Why didn't I have the words? Just the whole idea that I didn't have the words back then, but now I'm using my words to communicate. Communication is hard. It's so much to explain and walk through, but that's what this journey is all about. It's so many different pieces. It's so many different layers, and it's still coming to me, even how I became a shy kid. But when I look back at my journey, in that even though I was shy, and to now be speaking and using my voice, it's overwhelming when you really think about the full circle moment of this whole journey. How now I have such a different outlook from when I was a kid to how I am now to be saved. It really takes spiritual maturity. That happens over time. The more we spend with God, the more vulnerable we are willing to get. I don't know if what I'm saying is coming through clearly, because it's really hard to explain, like, this chapter and where I was as a kid to how I am now as a 51-year-old. But I'm excited to see as I come on and read it chapter by chapter and allow God to flow through me and even understand better how being a shy kid impacted my whole life. So that's chapter 3. Like I said, I'll link the first 2 chapters down below in the description. I like to ask the question of, what do you think about life lessons and how your childhood formed the person that you are now, and how this chapter relates to your journey of faith and your journey to surrender. So if you wouldn't mind leaving a comment down below, let's have a conversation. Let's keep surrendering together. So I hope you enjoyed a little bit of this background story, even though it was a little all over the place. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.